You're listening to Talking Hoosier Baseball, a podcast by fans from the iubase.com website for anyone wanting more info on Indiana University baseball. Today is Monday, May 13th, 2019. I'm Cassie Palmer, joined by Master of the RPI, Carl James, the creator of iubase.com, Josh Bennett, and the man who loves two-out RBI, Chris Feeney. This week, the Hoosiers followed up a series loss at Illinois with an ugly midweek performance in Lexington. The Wildcats jumped on the Hoosiers when a single wild pitch managed to score 2 runs. The Hoosiers never got into a groove and have now lost the last 4 games they've played against Kentucky. Next, the focus shifted to a road series against the Big Ten's leader and the second best ERA team in the country in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The Hoosiers completely flipped the script by taking the first 2 games on the road and doing it by hitting elite pitching hard.
Well, it really comes down to there's an attitude. There's an attitude that you just have to have, and we haven't always had it, to be honest with you. And we're still trying to figure it out. And I'm not upset with them. It's just you're learning, and as a young man, as you grow and mature into an adult, there's things that you have to fail. You have to fail to learn, and at some point, you just get your belly full. You just get your belly full of getting beat. You get your belly full of being scared. You get your belly full of not competing. And it's just time to put your foot down and go be a man and fight it out. Win or lose, you just want to make sure there's nothing left undone and nothing left unsaid.
So this set up a single game to decide the lead in the Big Ten title race on Sunday. Neither team had lost a Sunday conference game, and that trend kept right on going through the 10th inning on Sunday. But alas, someone had to fall. The Hoosiers took advantage of 4 Wolverine errors to strike the scoreboard first in a hard-fought back-and-forth game in which both starters excelled. The Wolverines walked it off on a fielder's choice in the bottom of the 11th. While the Sunday win put Michigan back up to a 1.5-game lead, the Hoosiers re-enter the D1 baseball top 25 and are ranked 25th in the rankings released today thanks to the strong series win. So Josh, why don't you get us started with your Hoosier highlights?
All right, thanks, Cass. My highlight this week is going to be Gabe Bierman's performance on Friday night, closing out the game behind Paulie. It was without a doubt one of the more dominant outings we've seen from any Hoosier on the mound. Gabe earned his first career save by retiring all 9 batters he faced. And I remember Chris talking about an outing earlier this season where I think it was Tanner was on the mound, and he didn't need an outfielder until like the 7th inning. Well, Gabe got through his 3 innings, and he only needed Ryan out there. The first batter he faced was the only one able to put the ball in play, and it was a pop-up to the catcher. Gabe then proceeded to strike out the next 8 batters in a row to end the game. 6 were swinging, 2 looking. He only needed 44 pitches to record those 9 outs and didn't see a ball 3 count. He was obviously in the zone. You could tell just watching on TV his demeanor and presence out there on the mound. Just really impressive stuff and definitely my highlight for the week. So, Carl, what are your highlights for this week?
My highlight for the week, I'm actually, oddly enough, going to pick one from the game that the team lost, the Sunday game. But it was a big deal for me when down 4-2, which is the first time Indiana had been down in the series. And it had just been watching Matt Gorski really not get pitched to most of the weekend. And then him finally come up with a real opportunity and to get that big 2 RBI single to get the game tied. So you had your big star player get a big hit in a moment to get the team back into the game. And that, at that point you felt like there was a real shot to pull off the sweep. It didn't happen, but that moment was really special, I think. Chris, what about you?
Okay, thanks, Carl. For me, the highlight had to be the inning. It starts off with a walk and then a bomb and then a single and then a bomb. and Matt Lloyd and Cole Barr just going back and forth for that Big Ten home run race, the Hoosier home run race. It was really, I mean, I had Greg on the radio, and the excitement in his voice, it was just like bang, and then another quick single. I might have been like, I don't think Dunham saw too many pitches because it seemed like it all happened so fast. And it was just like all of a sudden we had 4 runs. And Saturday, the explosion, basically, I mean, we had 20 runs in two games. But that 4 at-bat sequence of walk homer, single homer, to me, that was the highlight. What about you, Cass?
Before I get to mine, I'll follow up. And Cole saw a ball and then knocked it out. So he saw a total of 2 pitches that at-bat. But for me, my highlight was definitely the offense picking up on a Friday without home runs. That's something this team has struggled with. If they're not hitting home runs on Fridays, they're not scoring. So for them to be able to come out, get the offense rolling, kind of on all facets except for the home runs, that was nice for me. And I was watching with a friend, so she got to see some of that. So that was really cool. Well, it is time to give out the red belts. Chris, who got them this week?
Okay, thanks, Cass. Well, it's down to 2 weeks left of red belts in the regular season. Now, for this week, Josh basically explained to you why Gabe Bierman gets the Joey Donato Award. He was so impressive. Then you can also throw in his inning in the third against Kentucky. I know that was a sloppy game, but when he came in, there was a guy on second and 2 outs, and he kept that guy right there. And, I did believe then it was just a 2-run lead. That game felt like we were getting killed, but the score was actually kind of close throughout, and he kept the opportunity for a comeback. Gabe did well there, and then another inning, no hits, no runs. So it was a good deal. He obviously dominated against Michigan. He won Big Ten Freshman Player of the Week for that. He gets a red belt for that. And I'd like to see what happens with that big pod, see if we can get big pitcher too. I don't know how they're going to figure it out. It'll probably go to a starter. But to me, Bierman gets all 3. Now, for defense, this one's a little harder for me because it seems like most of the web gems happened when I was on audio. I know 2 of the games were on TV, but I had a busy weekend. I was kicking around back and forth between Greg. And on Saturday, I was all Greg. And let me just tell you, what a game that was. And the job he did was outstanding. We're really lucky to have Greg Murray. What I'm going to do for the defensive red belt, though, I'm going to kick it over to somebody who was there for the whole weekend. So, Carl, what do you think for the best defensive play or defensive plays of the weekend?
The 2 that stood out to me were both Justin Walker plays at short. And this is one of those things that I felt the one on Saturday, maybe it didn't look quite as good on video because it was the timing and the distance of the throw after he got that ball. He was deep, playing deep at short, got the ball, was not at an ideal throwing angle, and threw a strike to first base to just get that runner who was moving quickly. And it was like, I did not believe that was going to be an out until after it was called an out. And I was very impressed. And then he followed that up on Sunday with another fantastic play, which was more of a real web gem. Because, I mean, that was one of those cases. Yeah, you knew he was, once he picked it up, you knew he was going to be out. It wasn't like the one with the throw. But both of those were just really, really impressive plays at short. And I think Justin Walker deserves this red belt.
Well, there we go. Justin Walker gets the defensive red belt for the week. I had a feeling it was from the tone of Greg's voice. I really get pumped. When he gets pumped for a web gem, I get pumped listening. So, listening to him for years now, I kind of know which ones are special. But we had to kick it to Carl because he had eyes on everything. So that was cool. Now, for the offensive red belt, for the Alex Dickerson Award, we're going to go for a back-to-back Eli Dunham. This is 2 in a row for Eli. For the series, he had a hit and a run and 3 walks. The first game, 3 walks is for the series. A hit and a run the first one. Then back-to-back 3-hit games where he scored 5 runs and had 2 RBIs. So he had 7 hits total, 6 runs scored, 3 walks, 2 RBIs, and, of course, his home run. He has really, really stepped up. I got to say, talk about player development. We talked about Sal Frank last week on how much he's improved. I know we really thought we were going to have a spot for Dunham last year, possibly in right field, but then Sowers came back. What he's done this year has been really, really impressive. And I know he broke out the head high line drive comment, and I got Coach Mercer calling him the tactician. So he's definitely been getting his due, and he pulls out back-to-back red belts here on Talking Hoosier Baseball, so that's a good deal. So for the week, we have Gabe Bierman for pitching. We have Justin Walker for defense and Eli Dunham for offense. We're going to kick it over to Carl now to see what's going on with the Big Ten and the RPI resume type of thing.
Sorry. Thank you, Chris. Yes, the Big Ten has been kind of interesting, actually very interesting. And I really did finally kind of dig in and go back into the conference RPI numbers that I've done year after year. I honestly haven't been dredging them out so much, when we're closer to the top of those standings. But it's still, I think, to be fair and be honest, is to get out there and take a look at it. And at the top, you look at these teams, and it's actually, you look at Michigan, Indiana, Iowa, Illinois. These teams are all pretty close in strength of schedule, and it's all pretty close to right middle of the road strength of schedule within the conference. This is one of the more balanced I've seen. Now, if there are teams that have a valid claim to complain, I would say they would be Minnesota and Maryland. Maryland especially has had a slog. And my final predictions, and I ran these predictions on Saturday night, so I don't include the Sunday games in this, although some of the series had already wrapped on Saturday anyway. I had Maryland finishing 8th and just barely getting into the Big Ten tournament. And with that, they would have, but their conference RPI have them 2 slots higher at 6th. So it's not a huge deal. For Minnesota, their conference RPI would have had them in 3rd, while I have them actually finishing in 5th. So it's really just a 2-point difference. It's even with Michigan being, again, and this is one thing that's been consistent year after year. The champion has always had the best conference RPI since I've been tracking this. There's been a lot of weirdness in the rest of them, but we'll see, because even if Michigan ends up going down to Nebraska and Indiana pulls off the sweep against Rutgers, chances are Michigan's CRPI will still be slightly higher than Indiana's. I could be wrong about that, but it's still a distinct possibility. But overall, I think these conference standings are pretty reflective. And I think we are going to get a true conference champion. And again, that's what it's going to take. If Indiana now wants to win a game and a half back, Indiana has to sweep Rutgers, most likely, and Michigan would have to lose 2 out of 3 at Nebraska. But Nebraska just took 2 out of 3 at home against Arizona State. So that is, neither one of those things are entirely unlikely. The 2 of them together might be a little more unlikely. That's where I kind of see, I think either one of those things could happen, but both of them, that's where the more statistical mind in me has a little bit of a, I would love for it to happen, but it's kind of a run in the table kind of deal. Now, as far as the postseason goes for the national tournament, the resume is in more solid shape now. RPI is increased by 2 ranks. That's not a huge deal, but the road record is at 11-12. It's 11 road wins. That's solid. It would be nice if it was, at least 500. It's not, but it's not bad. Neutral 4-2, provided that the team doesn't go 0-2 at the Big Ten tournament, they will have a 500 record away from Bart Kaufman Field. So that's one thing. They want to get a win in the Big Ten tournament for that purpose. And by the way, Indiana has guaranteed themselves a slot in the Big Ten tournament. So the Hoosiers will be playing before Memorial Day in Omaha. They've improved the top 50 to 5-8, and all 5 of those teams are solid to remain in the top 50, barring a complete and total disaster by Michigan. Being that they would get swept and then get swept at the Big Ten tournament, which watching that team, I don't see that happening, particularly in their last game of the season. As far as the needs report goes, to qualify with a top 45 RPI, the Hoosiers have no more work to do. They're already there. For top 32, they need to win 3 of the next 4. So either Louisville plus winning the Rutgers series or sweeping Rutgers. Top 16 RPI is no longer possible according to the needs report. And that's what would be necessary for a hosting situation. You could make an argument that, well, if they beat Louisville and swept Rutgers, won the Big Ten, and then got to the championship game of the Big Ten tournament, is it possible? It's possible, but it would also require a bunch of other teams at specific slots to have bad things happen to them. It's my statistic mind just doesn't see a running of the table, and it's also possible a running of the table isn't enough to do the trick. Just given some of the things that have happened, losing the Illinois series was hard. Losing games to Michigan State and Penn State was very hard. But this now means the best series win has changed. The Michigan series is now the best series win, which is a top 50. So now we replace the best series with a top 50 on the road. So that is very solid. And now means that we're up to 5 good wins. Illinois, Indiana State, and Connecticut, 29, 31, and Michigan at 42. One more chance for a top 50 win tomorrow night against Louisville. The bad losses, Michigan State is, after that surprising series win against Iowa, is now up to 161. It's not impossible that if Michigan State continues to play well, they could get out of the 4th quadrant, and it's possible that Indiana could end up with just 1 bad loss on the season, provided they don't lose any to Rutgers. So we'll see how that particular run goes. Cassidy, what do you have for us in the statistics wise this week?
So I don't have too much on the stats side. I was away from home for work for the vast majority of last week and just finally got caught up yesterday. But I did take a quick look at updated numbers for wins versus losses. And the first thing that caught my attention were runs and hits. In losses, the team puts up about a third of the runs as they do wins on about 60% of the hits. So they are still getting hits. They're just not bringing anybody home. And so that was the big thing that caught my attention. They are on the pitching side, they're giving up about the same number of hits in wins and losses. But on that side, more runners are coming around to score. About double the number of runs are scoring on about the same number of hits. And so those two combined make it pretty difficult to win. And you can see why some of those losses are happening. The team is also averaging 1 unearned run per game in losses. And in wins, it's like less than half of a run difference between the earned and unearned runs, or I guess between the earned runs and total runs. But some of the stuff you would expect, the team is striking out more in losses, and the pitchers are striking out more of their guys in wins, drawing more walks in wins, and not giving up. We're only giving up 2 walks a game in wins, which is kind of nuts, but the number of times this pitching staff has given up no walks in a game, that makes it a lot less surprising, especially when you've got guys like Paulie Milto, Tanner Gordon, and Andrew Saalfrank carrying the load on the weekends. That really helps those walk to strikeout ratios do really well. So that was just what I did a quick glance at this week. Chris, what do you have for us with the future Hoosiers and the past Hoosiers with the alums?
Thanks, Cass. I really just listened to what you were saying about our starters. deep pitching for regionals, whether you have to go on the road or not, that don't walk pitchers. I like hearing that. Absolutely. I think a lot of people don't really look at the depth of this staff, man. It's going to be good stuff. I don't care where we got to play. All right. So as far as future Hoosiers, there was a ton of action this week. A lot of good stuff. While we're winning this huge series out, in Michigan, during the week, our upcoming guys really stood out. Just to go over a couple, because there was a ton. Senior Jack Walker from New Palestine, he threw a 3-hit shutout with 13 strikeouts. He's actually having his senior day game today, and I saw that he's made 2 big defensive plays at first base during the game. But he's going to be pitching for us, from what I understand. Real tall, 6'7", real good presence on the mound. So really look forward to Jack getting here. We also have Thailand Nelson out of Andrian High School. He's a junior, so he's still a year away after this year. He had a 2-home run game this week. Holden Grower. Now, we saw him play for Silver Creek in the state title game. He was starting at third as a freshman. He didn't have the best day, but he was also pitching against that stud that's going to Vanderbilt after this season, Doolin. So we'll give him that one. Not only is he playing third and infield, but he's pitching now for Silver Creek. And he threw a 2-hit complete game victory. So that was a big one for him. We also have A.J. Shepard. He's one of the freshman recruits that we have. And he made his all-county first team as a freshman. And he's a catcher for Osborne Park, and that's in Northern Virginia. That's a little bit more spread out. We've been going with the recruiting. It's actually from Manassas, Virginia. So I can't remember too many Virginia recruits, but like we've been saying, we're spreading out. That's why Dan Held wasn't coaching third as much, I guess, right? He's been all over the country recruiting. Another highlight that we have, Ryan Fisher. He's another pitcher, another utility guy, though, as well. He homered in their first playoff game for Lake Brantley out in Florida. Definitely looking forward to Fisher coming by. And then we have Costa Soronis out of Munster High School. He got a victory, 5 innings, 9 strikeouts, just the 1 run, and he went 2 for 4 with a double at the plate. So it's a lot of these guys, a lot of these athletes that are coming. I left the biggest one for last, and that's Nate Stahl. He's from Walsh Jesuit High School in Ohio. He was actually going to go to Wright State to go to for Coach Mercer. He decommitted from Wright State now to come to IU with Coach Mercer. And he had a big preview done with him for Prep Baseball Ohio. And he picked the right day to shine, the day they were there. He was throwing 94 off the mound. He threw a complete game, 9 strikeouts. They said he was topping out at 94, but he was consistently 90, 92. He's 6'3", 200, so another taller guy. Not some of these 6'6", 6'7" guys Mercer's bringing in. Just 6'3". That's short for a pitching staff, it seems, these days. Not only did he throw that complete game, but at the plate, he had a bomb and a double. And they're really speaking about him as a third baseman pitcher utility guy for next year. So that's Nate Stahl, somebody to look forward to next year from Ohio. A lot of future Hoosier highlights this week. As far as the alumni, we have a promotion. Caleb Barriger got promoted during the week to Double-A. And so now he's going to be on the Richmond Squirrels, and he's going to be on a pitching staff with Ryan Halstead, whose birthday it is today, by the way. So happy birthday, Ryan. We had him on in the interview in the offseason. He's 27 today. Hopefully they let him pitch today on his birthday. We'll see what happens. We also have, it happened the night after the pod, I believe. Josh Fegley caught a no-hitter. Mike Fiers no-hitter for the Oakland A's. It was actually his second no-no, believe it or not. And so Fegley had the pretty good week. He had the 8 RBI game, and then boom, he catches a no-hitter. So Josh is doing really well. Let's see. We have 2 independent ball leagues starting up. BJ Sable for the Washington Wild Things, I believe it is. He's already had 2 really good outings for them. And obviously we're getting all this from @ProBallHoosiers on Twitter. And Christian Morris for the Windy City Thunderbolts. He already pitched a game. He got a win, throwing 6 shutout innings. So it's good to see BJ and Christian back in the independent leagues, trying to get back. You know, you don't know who's watching those games. Before you know it, they're going to be on a minor league team again. And I think it's really cool for them to keep continuing to follow their dreams. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much our future and alumni highlights. Now, this week's a little different, right? We have senior weekend, okay? Or senior day on Sunday, but really it's the whole weekend. Shit for these guys the whole weekend. And what we're going to do is we have put together some senior highlights for each player. Josh is going to start us off, and he's going to start us off with the let's see. How do we gonna? Well, we're just gonna call him Ryan Feynman. Maybe we'll see what Josh has to say about him. So Josh is gonna talk about Ryan.
All right, thanks, Chris. Ryan Feynman found his way from Westlake Village, California, all the way to Bloomington, Indiana, and the Hoosiers were very fortunate that he did. Ryan came in as a highly touted recruit, coming off an all-state senior season and playing with the 17 and under U.S. national team. And from day one on campus, he was the man behind the plate. He started 15 games that season and was in the top 5 on the team in runs, hits, RBI double, total bases, walks, sac flies, at-bats, games played, and games started. He also had the longest reach base safely streak on the team his freshman year, 22 games. And with a season like that, it was a no-brainer that he was selected to the All-Big Ten freshman team. In his sophomore and junior seasons, he once again carried the load behind the plate with 45 starts and 50 starts, respectively. He was named a co-captain along with Paulie Milto for their junior season. And the first 3 seasons, Feynman earned a reputation as somebody who you probably shouldn't run on, as he threw out 43 of 76 of those who attempted to steal. But apparently, a few still had to try their luck again this season. But it's been an even worse idea, as he's thrown out 9 of 13. Some people insist on learning things the hard way. This season, some injuries have limited the amount of time he's been able to be out on the field, as he has only 31 starts to date. And after leaving the game on Sunday, we're really hoping this isn't the last we've heard from Ryan for his career. He's been a 263 hitter and has 179 hits and 179 starts. He's crossed the 100 RBI mark and sits at 103. He scored 96 runs, so he needs 4 more this season to eclipse the century mark for that one. And he's hit 19 home runs, so we'll get 1 more, and then he crosses that 20 threshold for home runs. To me, I think the most impressive number, though, is that he has 3 stolen bases in his career, something that I just would never have guessed until I looked at some numbers. But Ryan has 48 multi-hit games and 24 multi-RBI games. And as good as the numbers are, I know they won't do justice to Ryan's career at IU. I know we'll have some question marks next season. To me, the biggest one's going to be who's going to fill number 29's shoes. It's been great not having to worry about that important, crucial position for the past 3 years after we got to see what he did his freshman season. Memory-wise, for me at the top has to be the bomb he hit at Victory Field last season. Just absolutely smoked. And I'll never forget the run he got on when the rib picture found its way to the scoreboard. You just couldn't get him out, and everything he did was extra bases, driving in runs. He absolutely carried the team offensively for a long stretch. He also had a monster homecoming game last season at San Diego, where he went 3 for 4 with 2 runs and 4 RBIs, had both a double and a home run. And I'll just say that Drew's favorite memory of Ryan comes from the midweek game at Purdue. We were sitting down by the dugout, and Ryan came over before the game and gave Drew his first eye black. Drew felt like a big leaguer and slept in it that night. And I'm pretty sure he didn't take it off for at least 2 games until Mom insisted. But anyway, Ryan, thanks for making your way to Bloomington and being a Hoosier. It's been a privilege to watch you play. So now Carl will talk about Paulie and Cade Bonel.
Well, yes. Paulie Milto from Greenwood, Indiana, much closer. Paulie's going to have a special place in IU's history. He's already number 2 on the all-time Hoosier career strikeout list. And I've heard and read many pundits in college baseball talk about, despite the lack of overpowering stuff, how Paulie is just a college bulldog. Aaron Fitt once said he's a gator wrestler. Paulie doesn't get rattled by the situation. He takes the arsenal he has, and he finds a way to get out of innings and put his team in a position to win each and every time out. The favorite thing I've heard about Paulie actually came from Maryland's coach on the Big Baseball podcast. He was asked about his ace, Hunter Parsons, and how impressive Parsons was in that game against Indiana. But before the coach complimented his own player, his response was how happy he was that he was never going to have to face Paulie Milto ever again. Paulie was third team all Big Ten in his sophomore season. He was IU's pitcher of the year that year. In that sophomore season, I particularly remember him going 7.1 innings at Purdue on a Sunday after the Indiana had already lost the series. And he just went out there, shut the Boilers down, and it was a turning point for that team. That team got it together and found it after that. And Paulie was a huge piece of that. He got to pitch the opener of the Lexington Regional, which was that fantastic tight game that the Hoosiers eventually lost in extra innings. It was a no decision for Paulie. With Ryan, he was the team captain for his junior year. And he was phenomenal. A 2.03 ERA and 79.2 innings pitched. He made the Big Ten's all second. Paulie set the Hoosiers up for a real shot at a regional title game with that complete game shutout against Texas Southern in Austin. It was a huge performance that allowed the team to have the pitching arms available to have a shot with to one hit could have extended that to a championship game. He's been the Friday guy this year, and despite the lack of run support, which has been one of those things that Indiana's had to deal with, he's got 7 wins on the season. And of course, he had that phenomenal game up in Seattle, which we were with Cass on the live stats. It's an interesting experience live statting a game that's a no-hitter for that long and not being able to, and also being on a podcast and not being able to talk about it either, because you can't talk about it. You can't say anything about it. And Paulie has just been a phenomenal player and such a presence. And you can tell that he's a leader. You don't think of him as a kid. He's not a kid. He's a man out there. He is a grown man. He is a leader. He sets the tone in so many ways for this team. And he's a joy to watch. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he does with this team in the rest of the season and the postseason. I'm also going to talk about another senior, Cade Bonel. We only got to see him for 2 seasons. He's an infielder who from Staunton, Wisconsin, who came to us by way of a freshman season at Kansas State and a JUCO year at Madison Junior College. We have seen him a bit more in some key spots lately. Most importantly, he hit the walk-off RBI in the Purdue game. And then we just found out that Indiana won the Governor's Cup this year by a single point. So Cade's hit was a really big deal in part of that. We've seen him in some defensive situations called in, and he's been an important part of the team over the last 2 years. So congratulations on their senior seasons to Paulie and Cade. And now Cassidy will go over the IU careers of Matt Lloyd and Wyatt Cross.
Yes, so I've got transfers, although Matty Lloyd was here a little bit longer. He transferred in as a redshirt soft game from Alberta, Canada, by way of Iowa Western Community College. Sophomore year, when he was named All-Region player and a second team. That year he had 9 saves, which is tied for season records list. His junior year, he was named to the second team All-American by Collegiate Baseball and team All-American by the National College Association. He was also first team All. For his career, this gets a little more interesting because he has both hitting and pitching numbers. But for his career, he hit 291 so far with 180 hits and 35 home runs. Those 35 runs are currently 10th all-time in a career at IU. He also has 138 RBI so far. On the pitching side, he has seen a little bit less action this year than the last, but he does have a 1.94 ERA in his career with 47 appearances and 6 pitched. He also has 21 saves, which is currently second all-time at IU behind Ryan. And I checked with the guys before I decided to put actively knock on wood. He actually has yet to give up a home run as a Hoosier, which I didn't. Matty Lloyd has been part of some really big games as a Hoosier. And if I were to go through every single one of the games in which he's played a big role, we'd be here all night. Some of the ones that stood out to me, the first thing I remember was that Northwestern Series in 2017, in his sophomore year, where game 1, he hit 3 home runs in that game, which was the first time since 2009 and Josh Fegley that a Hoosier had hit 3 in a game. The next game, which was the second half of a doubleheader, he hits another home run. So that's 4 home runs in a day. Game 3, he goes 4 for 5 with 2 doubles and gets the save. And going off of that, in the Northwestern Series the following year, in game 1, he was 2 for 2 with 2 home runs, 4 runs scored, and 4 RBI. So Matt Lloyd really liked playing against Northwestern. He also had a couple of walk-off games. He had one to beat Ball State in 2017, and of course had the one against Minnesota this year, 2 outs, full count, runners first and second, down 2, knocks in a 3-run home run to win the game and even the series. That's one of the biggest things he's had in his career, and especially this year. The pitching side specifically, game against Purdue last year, the 1-inning game, and he goes out to win the game. It doesn't finish, and be able to do that was nuts, and he did phenomenally. In the Texas A&M regional, or against Texas A&M in regional, he went 3 for 4 with 2 runs and 3 RBI in a game the Hoosiers won by 2. 1 1/3 innings of relief. This is a small portion of the big games that Matt Lloyd has had, and even though we didn't get him as a freshman, we got him for 3 years. Still left his name in the record books, and he has definitely left the legacy done. I also looked into Wyatt Cross a bit. He transferred from San Jacinto College as a junior last year, so we got him for 2 seasons. And Wyatt has been a dependable backup for Ryan Feynman, because especially in the college game, you can't catch all the games, and Wyatt has done really well, especially this season when he had to pick up these innings, had to pick up these games. He had, what was it? He caught 5 games in 4 days or something like that. It was, and has done really with that. A couple of the games that stand out this year against Kent State in the 2-run just absolute bomb to send the game into the 12th inning. And while the Hoosiers couldn't win, in the bottom of the 11th, hit that home run was huge. One of my favorite things I've seen San Diego last year. He had this ridiculous bare hand catch of a failed bunt. I don't think I've had, and it just blew my mind. And Wyatt's arm, just like not running on Ryan Feynman, teams learned pretty quickly that Wyatt Cross has a cannon behind the plate. So it's been great getting to see Wyatt play these last couple of years, and it's been great having him around. Wrap up our senior recognition with Logan Kalitha.
Okay, thanks, Cass. I got to say, when we were trying to figure out who did who on the senior list, and Carl decided to go random generator, and I felt like I did pretty well getting Kalitha. He absolutely was came out of nowhere last year. I mean, we knew who he was. He was coming over from Johnny Logan. You know, we knew he was going to be a player. But that first week was just incredible. He basically, I mean, he lit up all the stats, right? He's making web gem catches in the outfield. For his first week, I looked it up, 18 total bases, 8 hits, 4 walks, 2 doubles. He hit the walk-off grand slam at the Coastal Carolina Stadium against South Alabama. That was amazing. He had the huge hit late against San Diego in that game where it was already testy, and he gets that big hit. I think it was top 9 if I remember. But Logan is just such a special player, whether it's out in the field or at the plate. Plenty of Ricky Henderson home runs, the leadoff homers. I would just love putting that on Twitter. Logan went Ricky Henderson again, starting the game off with him as a leadoff hitter. I mean, the offense started slow last season, right? Especially in the non-con. And Logan Kalitha, the guy who we didn't know, basically carried us for those first couple of weeks. And it was just amazing to watch this guy's 5 tools, you know what I'm saying, out in the field, wherever he was, running the bases, big hits. Logan's a special, special player. I know this year he's some injuries, you know, what it is he's giving up his body, sliding on bases, making diving catches, jumping into walls. You know, he goes 100% all the time. And unfortunately, some injuries have taken his toll this year. We haven't been able to see him as much as we wanted. But to go over some of the highlights that he's had, the walk-off against Purdue is obviously the ultimate one. 13 innings. He hits that thing. I got to tell you, he hit a ball in that game earlier that I thought was going to go. And I guess the wind chopped it down or whatever. But he got all of that one. And to watch the guy celebrate at the plate, winning the series against Purdue in extra innings. Because remember, they had gotten us on Friday. We spanked them on Saturday. But then Sunday went the way it went. And to be sitting there in extras late, too. I think it was like 13th inning or something. Logan's a very special player. It's a shame what happened this year. But again, it's because he goes 100%. We obviously missed some time getting to watch him in his senior season. I looked it up as far as defense. The guy had 129 putouts last year in one era. He has 166 putouts in the outfield total in the 2 seasons, just the one era last year. And it's not like he's not risking it to go all out on plays, diving catches, really, really special plays, really, really special at the plate. You know, again, we missed a lot of him this year because of injuries. I know he's tried to fight back. Bro, as he says, it was a pleasure to watch you play. Whatever happens further on along the line, I'm real glad that we got you via Michigan City and via John A. Logan College. The region followed him big time. I remember anytime we put something up on the website or Twitter, it got no traffic like anybody else. There's still a post that we put up from him when the website was small. Not that it's still small, trust me. It was smaller. But the thing I put up about Logan, the region just came all out, and it must have got shared a million times, and it's still in like the top 5 ever posts. And the site has gone much bigger from when we put that up there. But that's his following. You know, he's got a ton of support on his side, whether it's family, friends, ex-players, ex-teammates. Logan's a special guy. I hope we get to see him play again. I understand, injuries and whatnot, but I wanted to thank him for his 2 seasons here. Pleasure to watch you, man. Big time. That's going to do it for all our seniors. Now, we still got some bowl games to play, so we're going to kick it over to Cass for the preview of Louisville and then Rutgers.
Yeah, so Louisville playing tomorrow. They are 40-12 overall. They're 14-4 on the road. When you only have 12 losses, you haven't lost much at all. We do know that Gabe Bierman is starting on the IU side. But for Louisville, they do have a few big wins. They took out Ole Miss in a pair of midweek games. They swept NC State, who has been consistently in the top 25. Took 2 of 3 from Miami, who's right alongside NC State. As a team, they're hitting 296. They have 5 qualifying guys who are batting at least 300 and another 2 that are right on the border. Couple of the big bats to watch out for. Shortstop Tyler Fitzgerald is hitting 340 with 7 home runs. And third baseman Alex Benelis is hitting 326 with 10 home runs. He seems to be their big power guy. The offense for Louisville is also 92 of 115 in stolen bases. They have stolen 92 bases, which is a lot. That's more than IU has attempted. So be ready for them to run, whether it's Wyatt or Ryan behind the plate. They are probably going to try to run. On the pitching side tomorrow, expect a bullpen day. Their last few midweeks, they've thrown 5-6 guys. They're going to be starting right-hander Jack Perkins. And the last 3 weeks, he has been out there for exactly 3 innings and then switching him out. So I would not expect to see him go more than 3 innings. Less is always an option. I would love to see him go less. That means we're hitting well. But don't expect more than 3 innings out of Perkins. He's a freshman from just up the road in Kokomo, Indiana. So he is from Indiana. He's got a 3.49 ERA in 14 appearances so far. And he's only walked 16 in 28 innings, 28 and a third. And he has 31 strikeouts. So about a strikeout an inning, a little more than that. Important for the Hoosiers, he has given up just 2 home runs on the season. So could be a little bit of rock hard place for a few innings. And opponents are batting just 188 against him. So that's the midweek. Louisville, we always know, is tough, and usually the Hoosiers play them pretty tough too. This weekend, in a funky weekend, starting on Thursday because of Big Ten tourney play, Hoosiers will be hosting Rutgers. Rutgers are 20-28 overall, 9-11 in Big Ten play, and 6-17 away from home. So a little bit different from Louisville. In Big Ten play, despite the record, they've actually only been swept by Michigan. They've won at least 1 game every other series in Big Ten play. And they did actually sweep Michigan State, who just recently beat Iowa last week, I think. And they did take 2 of 3 from Purdue. So they don't roll over. The record wouldn't indicate that they win too often, but they very rarely roll over and get swept. They are hitting 238 as a team. They have a few guys who stand out. I am probably going to butcher these names because I could not find a pronunciation guide to save my life. First baseman Tim Desi is team. He's not a big power guy, though. He's that guy who's going to be hitting singles to death. Third baseman Carmen Sclafani. He's only hitting 227, but he leads the team with 7 home runs. He seems a little boom or bust, though, at this stage, with 49 strikeouts, which is among the highest on the team. And left fielder, this is the one that's going to get me, Mike Nister. There's too many vowels and too many consonants right all together. He's hitting 280, but he's 15 of 16 in stolen base attempts. So he's the guy who's probably going to run out of the offense. On the pitching side, they have flip-flops a little bit. But as a pitching staff, Rutgers is actually only given a year. No one's really hitting them hard. Friday's starter will probably be left-hander Harry Rutkowski. He's 2-5 in 13 appearances. He has a 3.55 ERA in 76 innings. In those 76 innings, he's only walked 22 batters, and he's struck out 74. So again, right about a strikeout an inning. Saturday's pitcher is also a left-hander in Murray. He's four wins, 4 losses in 16 appearances. He hasn't been just a starter. He does have a 2.31 ERA in 66 and a third innings. He's walked 32 batters, and he has struck out 78 in 66 and a third. So be ready to strike out. Look at strikeout numbers against him. He has also plunked 11 batters, so that's a little nicer on our side. The thing to note, though, in conference play, his ERA is 1. He has locked down. He's 4-1 since the start of conference, and he's 4-4 overall. So you can see how that trend is going. Sunday is a righty, Tommy Gennaro. He's 3-4, 3 wins, 4 losses in 19 appearances. He has a 2.58 ER third inning. So he actually has he's walked again 22 batters, so 7 strikeouts. So he's the not to worry as much on the strikeouts. Pull a page from Feeney's book, and I did but wanted to let her know that AKA Bucky Barnes or Winter Soldier is, and for you, Feeney, of course, Todd Frazier with the Mets. So I doubt we will see either. You never know. Strange things happen. So that's it for the preview. Carl, what final thoughts do you?
Thank you, Cassidy. Well, I just wanted to say, talk about the fact that I had a really great time this weekend heading up to Ann Arbor. It definitely helped that the team won the series, but this is a trip we kind of looked at the schedule, and we're going to pick one series to really go to the whole series on the road. And it's one of those things I encourage an Indiana fan to do. I know a lot of the people on these that listen to us a lot of times due to family ties go to a lot of these series. But if you just go to the BART, I would recommend at some point in a future season picking a season and making a road trip. It's a fun experience. I would have to give props to the Michigan staff and the fans. Not necessarily during the game so much, but in the whole area, they were a very welcoming group. It's an interesting facility because it's kind of pigeonholed into campus. It's a real tight area in there, which is one of the reasons why they have that short porch in left field. But I think they did pretty well with the space that they have. And it was a fun environment. They play their music loud. They had a lot of kids there who were actually very loud during the games. It was an intense weekend due to what was on the line, and that really ramped up on Sunday. So it was a fun experience. It's nice to kind of go into hostile territory and see what happens and see a baseball game from a different perspective, going out on the road. And I can say we really enjoyed it. So Cass, what final thoughts do you have for us this week?
So for me, my final thoughts are just that for this weekend, I get to come over for on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. At least one series, and I'm glad that it's really fun. Or senior day, I guess it's not night. I'm very excited to make my way back to Bloom to happen often. But of talking Hoosier baseball, read up on IndianaBaseball.com. Follow us on Twitter at CUAtTheBar17. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, whatever you use. For Carl, James, Chris Feeney, I'm Casty Palmer. See you at the BART this weekend.
See my baby